Hey, hi! Welcome to Someone Else's Movie, the original podcast where an actor, writer, director, or nebulous industry figure gives a little love to a movie they didn't make. I'm Norm Wilner, senior film writer for Now Magazine, and this is the other thing I do. My guest this week is Catherine Reitman, an actor you may know from Family Guy, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and Blackish, or any of a dozen other projects. She's also the creator and star of Workin Moms, which returns for its second season on CBC tonight, Tuesday, January 9th at 9:30 p.m. Catherine picked Mean Girls, the beloved 2004 high school comedy in which Lindsay Lohan plays the ultimate outsider teen, Katie Heron, raised in Africa by her zoologist parents, newly arrived and utterly hapless in suburban Illinois. Katie's tentative exploration of the North Shore High School leads her to fall in with the Plastics, a superficial trio of alpha teens with the power to elevate or destroy her. Tina Fey's script infiltrates the John Hughes high school movie model and explodes it, offering endless opportunities for a perfect cast that pairs emerging stars like Rachel McAdams, Amanda Seyfried, and Lizzie Kaplan with a murderer's row of comics like Anna Gasteyer, Amy Poehler, Tim Meadows, and Faye herself. It's a little nothing of a studio comedy that turned out to be an all-timer. This is Someone Else's Movie.
Yeah, Mean Girls is one of those movies, you know, I grew up basically watching everything my brother watched. Mm-hmm. And, I watched Clockwork Orange at, a really young, inappropriate age. And to be honest, I was between two movies for you today. I love the movie Thelma and Louise. I remember watching that and being, feeling pivotal. But Mean Girls was the first movie where I thought, unlike some of my other favorites of that era, like the Cluelesses, and where Tina Fey handled the subject matter, which is just high school girls, in such a clever way that my world opened up as far as what you were allowed to speak intelligently about.
Okay, yeah.
That you were allowed to handle silly subject matter in a really witty way was really exciting for me.
Yeah, I was surprised. Not that you picked it. It's a great choice, period. But I'm always surprised when I look back on the movie and realize, oh, that's right. This was based on a sociology text.
Yes.
It's not a narrative project. But sometimes the most interesting stuff comes out when an author just has two or three insights that a screenwriter can expand. I mean, just the whole concept of Queen Bees and Mean Girls.
Yeah.
It's amazing how primal that notion is and how the film doesn't really... it feels like a time capsule, but not of 2003, 2004. It feels like a time capsule of high school, of every high school.
It feels like a Jane Goodall...
Kind of. That's
documentary on female apes in the wild.
Right, and that's part of the gimmick too,
yeah,
right?
The Africa.
Lindsay Lohan is our interloper.
Yes.
Our observer,
and also happening to be a homeschooled girl from Africa. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, no, they make that comparison very clear.
Yes. There's no doubt there.
Yeah, but it's such a big leap. Imagine starting a screenplay like that. Imagine just saying, "Oh well, here's the story. She's not just homeschooled. She was raised among the most inappropriate sort of, she only knows the animal kingdom. She doesn't know people at all."
I guess that to me feels more common. Uh-huh. In my experience pitching as a screenwriter, there always seems to be a high concept hook applied to things to make it, God forbid, we just trust. That's why I think I've always usually fallen in love with such simple indie movies about young girls or, slice of life films. This feels like there's this high concept idea, which is, yes, she's from Africa. Yes, she's this interloper. But it's also done, the thing we love about it is just once we're in the meat and potatoes of this clique, of the Plastics, and how they zing each other, how they interact.
Yeah. And ultimately, she just wants to belong. Yeah. And that's utterly universal.
Yes.
And at that point in her career, Lohan was, she's so good.
It's such a great moment.
She's not just really good, but she's naturalistic. She's perfectly placed. She gets the vibe. She can turn on the irony and turn it off again.
And she looks healthy, right? It's like Lindsay Lohan pre-crazy social media, downfall.
Well, she's a kid, right? She looks like a kid.
A kid with a fantastic rack.
Well, I'm almost 50 and I'm not allowed to comment on these things from a
very smart
external perspective.
Very
also,
smart.
no, it's creepy and weird, but to be doing that, but not you, me.
Zero judgment here.
Oh no, I'm judging plenty for both of us. The approach the film takes towards female beauty, towards idealized shapes, towards all of that is also time honored, right? Like it comes through every high school movie. It's all about feeling like you need to look good to belong and accept. I mean, every high school movie is ultimately about being yourself, right? And accepting who you are.
Right.
Except for Heather's, which ends very badly for those people.
Yes.
Who do. And in Mean Girls, it uses Lohan, like she's sort of, despite having been, Africa for the purposes of the plot, she's got this kind of home scrubbed, clean, all-American look that clashes in a really interesting way with the plastics because they're
right.
by definition trying too hard
right
to make themselves up and look different. And so once Katie starts to be corrupted, it plays in a really interesting way. And it also, now you can't think about Lindsay Lohan's subsequent life, right? The next 5 years of her life were kind of a tabloid nightmare. And
yeah, it's ironic, isn't it?
It's weird. It's one of those things where, I mean, there are almost no good stories about child actors coming through at the other side.
There aren't, and I think it's such a great example of what we take away once we're at home, once Mark Waters is through editing it and polishing it through post, and we get that perfect candy-coated message, to be yourself, is that the acting experience when you're on these sets, the communal feel that we're experiencing is not what they see. Look, other than Lindsay Lohan, the entire incredible SNL cast that's in this movie probably didn't even interact very much. They're all in their secluded little scenes.
Yep.
The messaging itself is all sort of, cut together in the end. So even though we come out of that movie saying, God, why do I fucking try so hard? And the truth is, it's so laughable trying to be someone who we're not. And look how it ended up for Regina George, hit by a bus. But that's not what Lindsay Lohan clearly, that wasn't her takeaway.
Right. And yet, she seems to have rebounded. There was a screening 2 years ago at Harborfront of Mean Girls for Pride Week.
Yes.
You Can Sit With Us became the immediate slogan that year.
Yes.
And she did a Skype in or something from, I think she was in London.
Did she read the role of Katie?
No, she just said hi to people basically.
Right.
And the love for that moment was, I mean, I wasn't there. I wasn't able to stay, but I saw the video of it afterwards and people were just so delighted, and it was they're still it's become part of her redemption story now.
Well, and
she made it back out.
Totally. And I think the difference between her and someone like Paris or even Brittany is that there's, we love to watch, we love to eat up these stories of downfall. But in fact, I think all of us have so much compassion and fear inside that somehow it's some version of us. Like if we were in that boat, what would happen to us? And Lindsay, unlike them, was this The Parent Trap, another movie I could have easily chosen, was this just exceptional little movie where she played twins, one with an accent at a very young age. Yeah. I mean, this was a really talented, bright young girl who just got completely pulled to the dark side. Yeah.
And
she was our Darth Vader for a second.
It's so weird because, you see it happen over and over again. It's a cyclical thing that the media feeds on.
Right.
And we're sort of seeing it now with hoping, the British press is hoping that Meghan Markle breaks a heel or something.
I hope she wins. I hope she doesn't.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's vile. And Mean Girls even sort of comments on it in a weird way with what happens to Regina with the power bars or whatever else, there's the cake bars, whatever they're supposed to be. That the sense of high school being that incubator of people waiting for other people to fail just so they can feel a little bit better about themselves. I mean, you see it in what Lizzie Kaplan does. You see it in all the...
Oh my God, Lizzie Kaplan in a completely different chapter of her life as well.
And she's fantastic, right?
She's brilliant.
She's got so much confidence and so much... I'd want another movie to be about her.
Just a spin-off of her character.
Yeah.
Well, there's actually no one in this film who does a bad job.
I was going to say, it's just...
It's kind of an amazing little time capsule of all these performers. I mean, Amy Poehler as the mother with the nipple constantly being chewed on by the chihuahua.
Yes.
The cool mom.
Apparently is a hot dog bit that she stapled onto her shirt.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Everybody is stepping up. Nobody whiffs it. Even Tim Meadows in the sort of generic Tim Meadows authority figure role is just so weird and quietly odd. And then the kids are great. That's Rachel McAdams.
Rachel McAdams and Amanda Seyfried, who almost played the opposite roles.
Yeah, I know. Those stories are always so weird.
I love those stories. What did you actually read for?
Yeah.
And how it turned out. Can you imagine if those roles were swapped?
Yes,
and this is right before Rachel McAdams exploded.
Yeah. And I think Rachel McAdams would have killed it, right? She would have been... Seyfried would have been good, too.
Both would have. Both are wildly talented.
Yeah. There's... And
it also speaks to one of my favorite things, which is this era of the Kelly Bundys, the dumb girl character usually being played by the smartest girl on the set.
Yeah.
That's absolutely the case with both Amanda and Rachel. They're both brilliantly smart actresses who are just playing the most hilarious, specific kind of dumb.
Yeah. I mean, that's it, right? There's no room for dumb people in comedy. You need to be smart to play this stuff.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like going from high school to college. You immediately realize that, there are people who have been doing this at a higher level than I've ever even reached, and I'm going to back away quickly and do something else.
Right.
It's as a comic engine, the plot is simple and perfect, but it's what people do with those parts and how they respond. Like everybody is just stepping up.
But I would argue that it's not as simple as a lot of other films. I think why I got so turned on by it is Tina Fey did this brilliant job of spinning it in a way that feels completely fresh. Like, I feel like we all have seen a high school movie where I'm like, I can predict everything. And that movie just continued to surprise me.
Yeah.
Even now I watch it, I'm like, oh, fuck, I forgot that bus hits her. There's just constant, and the quotes. It is one of the most quotable movies on the planet.
Yeah. I think that's what happens when a screenwriter has like total free reign.
Yeah.
You can come up with your idealized sentences, your perfect moments. I can only imagine that Faye spent months rewriting it, just working over every single line, punching it up.
Right, because it doesn't strike me as outside of the adults, the kids don't strike me as an improv savvy group. Smart actresses, but it felt to me like it was all pretty scripted.
Yeah, there's heavy structure in place, so there isn't even room to kind of riff.
No, because they're called back. All the jokes are called back.
Yeah, and
right.
You feel, and that's the other thing too, like 40-Year-Old Virgin is a couple of years away. There isn't that, the Apatow influence hasn't started yet, so what you're seeing is sort of the last gasp of the structured studio comedy.
Right. Well, there was improv. I mean, look, what my father did was a career of lots of improv.
Sure, but it was structured within, Ghostbusters has amazing moments that are built into a giant machine.
Right.
Like, so you're constantly aware that the scene doesn't get to ramble.
Yes.
Like, they kept the best take.
Yes.
And in Mean Girls, I'm sure there's some movement, as you say, in the adults, but yeah, they kept the best takes,
totally.
But they're still going to the script. There's no fat on it. It's 97 minutes instead of 125.
That's right. It's tight as hell.
Run.
Yeah.
Yeah. And everybody in it is just, I keep saying this because I'm delighted by the performances. I watched it again and it's just like, oh, this is so much fun.
It's so much fun. It's a party. It's a total party.
Yeah. There was a live read a couple of years ago at the Review Cinema. Chandler Levac does the feminist live reads.
Yes.
And she did Mean Girls, and it went like a shot. It was just one of those things where you're so aware of how everybody reading these lines is having a great time, but there's no patience. It's like, I want to get to the next one. I'm having so much fun.
Because there's so many. Scene. It's just so quotable.
Yeah, it is. And I'm not even going to start trying it because I'll end up doing voices, and that's embarrassing for both of us. But
now I have to hear it.
No. It's just, it's the
Stop trying to make what happen, Gretchen?
Yes. No, it's the, what is it, Wednesdays we wear pink. You can do the voice thing.
That's good.
I don't have
No, that was perfect.
I don't
nice
have
inflection.
Anne Donahue did the intro with me for a different Mean Girls screening at Hartford, and she killed it. And I am not allowed to do that.
You've been outlawed?
Oh, totally. She bested me so easily. Friend of the show. But it's such a pleasurable movie, right? Like the idea that you have these films that endure because they speak to everything. They don't speak to a moment. They speak to an attitude. So you keep coming back. And
it's full of energy, right? Like, you even think about that great Halloween beat where she doesn't realize that you're not supposed to dress like a horrible monster for Halloween.
Right.
Everyone's sexy, even if it doesn't make sense. Or the music. Every part of it is energized. That Missy Elliott track when we first meet Regina King is so alive. I remember sitting on the edge of my seat when that beat happened. I don't think I can listen to that song without going right there in my head. Her being carried in.
Yeah. It is. It's such a... Oh, I'm just going back to construction again, right? Like the pieces of it are so perfectly, machine tooled is the wrong word because that sounds like they're anonymous and
clunky.
Yeah,
right. But I know what you mean.
Every gear is going at the right.
Right. It's a full factory. Everything benefits itself.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. Edgar Wright once said that to get the tone right in Scott Pilgrim was like getting every single person to pull on a rope with the exact same tension.
Oh my God, that's so well said.
Genius and stuff, But that's what this is. This is the sense that everyone knows exactly how it's going to work, even before they got on the set.
Right.
So, again, like Mark Waters, this is the guy who made The House of Yes, which is not in any way preparation for this?
No, he's hit or miss.
Yeah.
He's hit or miss, but this one was a complete hit.
Yeah. So you saw it. What was your first experience of it?
My first time watching it, God, what was it? It was in the theaters. Like I said, I remember, because the 2000s I was right out of high school, and I just remember I was only seeing male-dominated movies, and I was loving them.
Okay.
But it was the first time I saw a female movie where it felt like it kind of bit back. It felt like it had some edge. It was really smart the way it was made. And I remember, I think what really stuck with me is Tina Fey, and thinking, okay, so I can be more than a caricature on SNL. I can be more than the young wife to a Kevin James type character.
Right.
It gave me all this hope that a woman could take a screenplay like that and make it play as hard as the boys.
Yeah, it does have that. It definitely has a woman's sensibility behind the camera, even though it's directed by a guy.
See, I guess I would disagree with you. It was the first time I saw a movie where it didn't feel... Because I've certainly seen chick flicks, for lack of a better phrase,
right,
and enjoying them, loving them, but this felt genderless to me. Even though it's about young girls, it felt like it had the wit and the edge of when I was with... Because I've been in a bunch of improv groups that are male-dominated, and it felt like it had... Not to say that male is faster than female, because I definitely disagree with that, but... It was the first time I saw something that felt genderless.
Okay. I guess my take is that it understands the female relationships a lot better than most movies of its kind do. And it doesn't immediately go to cattiness, and it doesn't go to the textbook female rivalry stuff, right, that every other male-directed high school movie ever did.
Totally.
Right? It's there. The burn book is a threat. It's not immediately used. It's something that, it's a MacGuffin. It's there for the entire movie, so it can be used.
Yes.
But it's not, people don't slam each other over the head with it as a threat. It's just, it sort of floats there, as opposed to, in a guy's high school movie, it would be two jocks fighting in the first scene.
Yes.
It would be a confrontation, and instead it's the simmering sense of rivalry that...
What's going to bring this woman down?
But what's going to trigger her response, too? Like, it's aware that it isn't just going to be about humiliating one person. It's going to be a chain reaction.
Right.
And that actions have consequences beyond the initial confrontation. And that seems to be something that Tina Fey deals with over and over again in her work. Even in stuff like Sisters, the movie she made with
Amy Poehler,
a couple of years ago. There is just this sense of continuity in action. Like, she thinks stuff through in a way that a lot of, John Hughes didn't do that. Everything, right. Ferris Bueller is beloved, but it's a film about instant gratification.
Yeah.
And everything in Mean Girls is a simmer.
Yes.
And that struck me in a really interesting way that I don't think I'd seen a high school movie that worked like that before. I don't think I'd seen a comedy other than maybe some of Elaine May's stuff, which is always about older characters.
Yeah.
So it really pushed at me while I was watching. It's like, I know this structure, I know this world, but I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
And that was fantastic. That never happens.
Right.
And even in Clueless, you're dealing with Emma. Like, you're dealing with the Jane Austen text.
Totally predictable and delightful.
Well, structured, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's brilliant in its subversion of what Jane Austen was doing and what it also incorporates from her stuff.
Right.
But it is beholden, right? Like, Mean Girls really did feel like something new.
Yeah.
And boy, that was good. I love it when that happens. It never happens.
No, when you felt it, right? I remember even as a much younger girl watching it and being like, it just blew the lid open to me on what selfishly I thought I could do with my career.
Okay.
Yeah.
But those transformative moments, those are fantastic.
Oh my God.
So
huge.
Were you, where did you go after that? Were you inspired to kind of... When you say that, what happened?
I probably was highly intimidated. Thought I will never amount to that. Tina Fey is a genius, and I should go home and make nachos in the microwave.
Sure.
But
also my response.
It's a great way to live your life. I'll do it today for sure. But no, I think it. I mean, it wasn't as like. I don't think it was as formulaic as, I went and I did this and did that. I always kind of knew I was going to get into sketch comedy. So Tina Fey was someone I'd always aspired to. And she and I've always really loved Maya Rudolph. And I remember being like, okay, I'm going to try for SNL, which I did. And I remember, because of the Groundlings in Los Angeles, that I got the opportunity to start writing. And that sort of led to, because I never thought I was going to be a writer. I didn't think I was smart enough to. I still don't think I'm smart enough to. But I remember getting that opportunity to write sketches because it's so slapbag, because you have this opportunity, unlike a screenplay where sometimes you're like, this might fail, but I'm just going to keep pushing. I'm going to keep pushing. And then you get to act 3 and you realize, I'm going to fail. Sketches, you have this really short-term availability, this opportunity to go, okay, what about this? What about a character like this? And whether you go high concept or low concept, it's really low stakes.
Yeah.
And so that opened up my whole world.
Okay.
And I think that's where so a movie like Mean Girls pushed me to do sketch comedy. And from there, I think the organic probably development was that I started writing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when did you get to the point where you felt comfortable performing, or was that also part of it?
That was since I was really little.
Okay.
Getting a laugh was it was genetic, I guess, for me. I remember my first laugh as a little girl at my parents were having a dinner party, and I came out in just my underwear. I was like a tiny little girl.
Right.
And I started doing like a stupid dance. And my father was humiliated and my mother could not stop laughing, which triggered everyone else to start laughing. And I remember being like, yeah, I want more of this. And so the performance element, I still do similar things like that at my parents' dinner parties.
Sure. If it works.
It doesn't get laughs, though. A lot of shame looks, particularly from my father still.
Right.
But yeah, the wanting to get a laugh hasn't gone away. But the writing, I'm continuing to develop that.
Yeah. It's always fascinating to watch someone as a writer-performer, because at some point early on, you must have known what you could do. Like what you felt comfortable writing and perform. Like that nexus,
yep.
which Faye has and which Poehler has. Like, there are people who occupy a tiny space, but I've been really interested in seeing what you're doing, because you're swerving. You're not, like, you haven't settled yet, which is really interesting. There's potential to go in any direction.
Yeah, there's huge potential to just have a whole street fire, right? The car just explode.
If that's what you want to
Bodies
play for.
everywhere.
No, I'm like...
Lindsay Lohan in the future,
no,
right?
No. You're way past that point at this point.
Thank you, old...
That may have come out wrong.
I understand.
No, but I'm thinking it was like, no, you're a completely irredeemable train wreck now.
Yes,
no,
yes.
Well, no, but if the stuff... FXX is the default channel in here, and It's Always Sunny will pop up constantly whenever we turn off the Blu-ray player. And you showed up a couple of days ago, and it's like, oh, that's right, it's the same person.
Yeah.
That's not what you're doing now, but you could go back to it. There's room, is what I mean.
Oh, totally. Look, in my writer's room, they've all been on several shows,
yeah.
right? They've been writing forever. Workin Moms is my first show as a writer, but I've been acting for a long time. Not wonderfully successfully, but I've had a few opportunities as a recurring character to sort of develop and at least discover what they're doing on sets and see the structure of it all. But as a writer, even in season 2, I think where I feel the most comfort is improv.
Okay.
The improv animal side of my brain doesn't get exhausted. You were saying earlier there's this vortex, right, where you can sort of watch someone and you know where their strengths are.
Yeah.
Like my husband and I always say, you got to find out what doesn't exhaust you, and that's probably what you're supposed to be doing with your life. You pray that you're also good at that thing.
Yeah.
But improv for me, I could do at any hour of the day and pretty much run it. It's something I feel very comfortable in that lane. And I guess the natural evolution from that was writing to me, because it is just new choicing. The game, well, it's new choice in America. It has a different name here in Canada, but it's that ability to go, okay, but what if this line, what if this line? So that's an improv game for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you bring that to a structured show like a sitcom? How do you
training, right? I mean, you have, it's just, there's a learning curve. I think what was the most exciting about working with CBC at this particular juncture in their path was that it's not a traditional sitcom. Like, I didn't even put act breaks in a single script of season 1.
Cool.
Yeah, it was wild, because I remember our writers kept being like, okay, but where do you want to see? And I was like, let's not do it. Let's not do it. Let's just write the best possible, 29 to 32 pages we can. And, there's acts. There's clearly a first, second, and third act, but it doesn't have the same hard out. And what was really cool is, the CBC does these tests where you sit down in this big room and they tell you, at what point people are most likely to change the channel, what character they're attracted to. Yeah.
Oh my
and it's
God.
a lot of fun when you're the star of it.
That must be so depressing. Like,
Oh,
just
it's totally depressing.
Any creative endeavor, notes are bad, but
Right.
generally.
It was also really exciting, though, because you never know if what turns you on is what turns others on.
Sure.
And when you're continually told to be afraid, which is what all network structure, American, Canadian, etc. are, which is you can't do nudity, you can't show this, you can't show women masturbating, moms are boring, moms are sad, and all the things that you're constantly having to swallow. Moms are boring unless the poo-poo diaper is flying at the wall and exploding.
Sure.
Unless it's super broad or super depressing after-school special. When I started to see that people were tuning in and staying in at the moments that I thought were electric, that was awesome. That was anything but depressing.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the second season of Kim's Convenience got sharper and tighter this year because they figured out what everyone could do and they leaned into it.
Yes.
So while I haven't seen the second season of Workin Moms, I know a couple of people outside or I know a couple of people in the production, and they're all really stoked about it.
Oh,
so,
awesome.
like, what happens? I mean, what did you learn from the first season to the second?
Yeah, I think hopefully Kim's Convenience is such a strong show, but similarly, you figure out on a writing side which storylines have the most potential, how much you need a good villain. Because sometimes we just want to reward the characters we love so much, and it's, I think we upped our villainry. We know what actor can do what.
Okay.
So, feeding them more and upping that. I think you figure out what works and what doesn't work. That's not to say there's not going to be flaws in the second season. We might find out that the audience is like, too much of this Kate character. Enough! And then, season 3 will just kill Kate in a street fire.
It's true. You always have the opportunity.
It's true. Bus, Regina George.
I was going to say, is there anything from, and this does bring us to the final question of the podcast, which is, is there anything of Mean Girls that you have borrowed or stolen or lifted or just absorbed into your own creative DNA, buses and otherwise?
No specific story steals, although I should. It's so effing good. But in general, I was definitely affected as far as takeaways from that movie about the witty repartee that can happen, not just between girl and girl, but, girl student and teacher, adult. I love the idea that just that really, really fast back and forth that doesn't feel like we're in some strange talking head movie. Everyone feels grounded in reality. Even though a lot of them are playing sketch characters. Like, even Amy Poehler being like, but I'm not that kind of mom. I'm a cool mom. I'm a really cool mom.
Yeah.
Like, the way she plays it, I feel like I'm never exhausted by her.
Yeah. She would be a fantastic recurring character. I mean, they did make a sequel in which no one came back.
Yeah.
And rightly so, because you shouldn't try.
How do you?
But, yeah, if this was a sitcom, because everything could be turned into a sitcom, I could sort of see her being the character I'm happiest to see. But then I'm always happy to see Amy Poehler, period. So it doesn't really
Yeah, but a B
right?
storyline where we follow her to, like, her, breast augmentation checkup.
Yeah, give
or
her
like,
one episode where
does she show the dog? Is it a show dog, Or her attempting to do that Christmas dance she does for the Merry Christmas Santa.
That's right, I forgot
But
about
for her husband or on a date. I'd watch
Christmas
any of
movie.
those storylines.
Yeah. I mean, just, webisodes. Why not? Let's do this.
Are we making a web series?
I think she's available.
She's so available.
But now that's what it would be, right? Like she maybe wouldn't fit into the main feed of the show, but you'd follow her around for 3 minutes, and whatever that actor does is going to be fun. So
they'll just make it part of the digital feed.
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
God, I'm thinking in multi-platform now.
That's a good sign.
Oh, no.
And you're not exhausted, right? You should do this for a living.
I am a little.
I want a nap.
My thanks to Catherine Reitman, whose Workin Moms returns for a second season tonight, Tuesday, January 9th at 9:30 p.m. on CBC. You can also find the show online at cbc.ca/workinmoms, all one word, no G in workin'. Thanks also to Alina Diviner. She knows what she did. You can find Catherine on Twitter at Reitcatou, REITCATOU, all one word, and you can find Mean Girls on Blu-ray and DVD from Paramount Home Entertainment. It's also available on iTunes and Google Play. Do not bother with Mean Girls 2. It will only make you sad. As always, you can find me on Twitter at Norm Wilner and elsewhere on the internet at nowtoronto.com. You can also find this podcast on Twitter at Semcast, SEMcast, and on the web at someoneelsesmovie.com. If you feel like leaving a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, that would be greatly appreciated. Every little bit helps, it truly does. Thanks for your support, and thanks for listening.